Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Life Reset Collective. My name is Josh. It has been quite a while since I've published a video on this channel, partly because toward the fall of 2025, I actually not only was going through a divorce, which was causing me to have to do my second life reset in my life. I've had to reset my life twice completely, both times due to divorce. But I also got laid off from my job, and that caused me to have to scramble, get another job. And it kind of threw my life into a very unbalanced, kind of chaotic mess for a little while where I was trying to catch up with lawyer bills and the divorce process and just scrambling to like get the job situation settled in and the income situation. So now that things are kind of looking back right, like my divorce is actually done, finished, and I have moved back into my house. It's a long story. Basically, when my ex and I separated, I let her stay in the house. Like, we were married, but I had owned this house previous to the marriage, and this is where we were living. I let her stay here and I left, and then we got divorced. And now that it's all done, I have returned to my house and am in the process of getting my life put back together. And I want to talk a little bit about goals leading into the next year, 2026. And I want to talk about basically the process of, looking at the new year as a catalyst for a new beginning for yourself. Okay. And, this is kind of a cliche thing. All right. First of all, I want to just take a moment and I want to talk about the purpose of this channel. The Life Reset Collective exists to support individuals rebuilding their lives after loss, trauma, burnout, or major life transition. Through soul deep encouragement, sacred wisdom, and practical tools, we walk with you as you begin again with intention, self compassion, and courage. We believe healing is nonlinear, that everyone deserves a second chance, and that your story isn't over, it is just the beginning of the next chapter. Okay. And I have a free ebook which is called the Life Reset Framework, 9 Steps to Begin Again. You can download that in the description through a link. Basically, that ebook contains my entire 9-step life reset process, and it is a pretty short ebook. It is only 8 pages, so you could read that and basically get an idea of what the process looks like. For me, I have had to develop a process for resetting my life because this is the second time I've gone through it, and now I'm finally getting ready to move into the next chapter. But it is not all roses and good times right now. There is a lot at stake. I have to get my money situation back up to the level it was before the divorce and the layoff. Right now, I'm working a job that pays much less than I used to make. And so I've chosen to start building my own business instead of going back to work for another agency. So that's a thing that I'm doing in 2026. I also need to get my fitness back under control. Sometimes when we go through hard times, when we go through a life reset, there are areas of our lives that we have to put on the back burner. Fitness is sometimes one of those areas, right? Sometimes dating is one of those areas. For me, that was a huge thing that got put on the back burner. Basically, didn't date, really had no, no dating contact of any kind throughout that entire divorce. Up until, just very, very recently, because I had my head down. I was working, not only working on building my business back up, but then working my job and also just like spending time with my kids, taking care of my dogs, and then trying to get my life put back together. There wasn't time for anything else. Now that the divorce is finally done, it's opened up a bit more time. But friends, as we move into 2026, it's important to be intentional, okay? We are deserving of a new chapter. You deserve a new chapter. And no matter where you are in your journey, this new year, the beginning of this, can serve as a time for reflection, as a time for putting together a plan for how you want to attack the next phase of your life. Okay. Now, in my 9-step life reset framework that I've put together for myself, that I have used to, help me through my reset, we actually have step number 9, build forward with rhythm. Okay. Sustainable change is built on rhythm, not intensity. In this final step, I call this the last step because usually you need to accomplish those other 8 steps before you're ready for this one. Usually you can download the book and read that. But in this final step, you focus on consistency, connection, and adaptive movement forward. You walk, not alone necessarily, although sometimes you do, not in a rush, but with clarity, humility, and presence. Okay. And some steps included in this are create simple systems for daily check ins, stay connected to supportive people or community, right? Revisit earlier steps as needed. It's all cyclical, and share your journey when you're ready, because your story is medicine. Sharing it is medicine for you, and sharing it with others can be medicine for them as well. Now, it's important to understand that just because we're starting a new year, it doesn't mean that you have to have everything together in order to begin this process of building forward, right? You might be in the beginning of your life reset. You might have lost a job, you might be going through divorce, you might have gotten an illness diagnosis, you might have lost your home. There are so many things that could cause us to have to kind of start from the beginning, start from scratch. And you may be in the beginning of that process. Okay. You might be in the middle, you might be toward the end of it. Okay. But regardless of where you're at, here's what we can do with the new year. And here's what I'm doing. We can take stock of where we are right now. We can use this as a time to basically create a sustainable path forward. For me, this is a plan. I want to plan out the things that I'm going to prioritize in 2026. I want to plan these things out so that I can have a plan of action moving forward. And here it's very simple. I want to focus on my business, right? I want to focus on YouTube. I want to focus on my kids, on my dogs. I'm going to focus on basically doing the best I can at my job. While I'm building my business, I want to achieve great results in both, because I don't know how long I'm going to be at my job versus how long it is until I basically leave the job to go back to working full time in my own business. I also need to get my health and wellness back under control. My health and wellness really took a dive. I stopped exercising almost completely. I started eating much less healthy. And the reason for this is just because I got exhausted, and I got to the point where I was I couldn't, going to the gym. I tried going to the gym for a while, but I'm going to be honest with you. When I was going through my divorce and everything, worrying about the legal stuff, worrying about money stress, worrying about, the emotional stuff, I got to the point where being at the gym made me feel so anxious. Basically, if I wasn't at work or if I wasn't working at my computer, I just felt so much anxiety. It was hard to cope with. And I think the reason for that was because when I was at the gym, I kind of thought well, obviously it's good for you, but I thought this isn't helping me move forward right now. What would help me move forward is making more money. So being at work, this is a good place to be. Being in front of my computer working on my business, this is a good place to be. So that was kind of the only thing I associated with forward momentum. And then as far as the emotional stuff goes, I spent a lot of time thinking. I spent a lot of time talking to myself about stuff. I realized that it was difficult to talk to people about what I was going through. And I'm going to be very honest. My family, I don't think they really understood what I was going through. They helped me so much, right? I stayed with my folks throughout the course of the divorce. They gave me a space where I could set up my office and work. They gave me a space where my dog could be there, which is awesome. He's a big dog. He's hard to manage. They let him be there. That was really cool. They literally gave me a car for Christmas. They gave me a car. I had no car because in the divorce, I let my ex have our car. We were a single car family, so I let her take the car, even though I had owned it long before we got together and things like that. I went ahead and let her have, because she, actually high key needed it. It would have been a huge disaster for her not to get it. So, I didn't have a car for the majority of 2025 until only very recently. And it was just because of my parents. So I love them so much. They've done so much to help me. And I have to say that, having that support system, I'm very lucky and thankful. I'm super thankful, because this process would have been way more difficult without that support system. But you might recognize this. Sometimes the people in your life can't relate to what you're going through. And maybe talking to them about it sometimes is almost worse than just keeping it bottled up, because when we try to talk, if a lot of times they'll try to give you advice. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but like I've been through this before. To be honest, I was way better equipped for this divorce than I was for my first one. In the first one, I was a total wreck, total mess, had no idea what to do. This time around, I knew way better what to do. And it was hard, but at least I kind of had a framework, right? But the problem is, like, really no one in my family has gone through this type of thing. And so, like, my parents, my siblings, I love them so much, but anytime they would say, "What's wrong? Talk to us about it. Why are you so anxious? What's wrong?" It's like, which those questions seem so insane to me, like being on my end of it. Like if I like, they're like, "What's wrong? Why are you so upset about this?" Well, to me, this was a strange line of questioning, right? But then again, I was familiar with it. I was the one in the situation, not them. But it just goes to show how detached they were from it, right? And that's okay. I'm not criticizing, but case in point, I tried a tiny bit to talk to them sometimes about my problems, just being vulnerable, just talking like you would to a friend, and it did not work. They would try to give me advice, and generally their advice, and I love them so much, but it wasn't helpful. You know how it is when you're going through this hard situation, and then people who have never been through that try to give you advice. It often is very strange. And then also their attempts to make me feel better, God bless them, but it just didn't work, right? It just didn't work. It did not result in me feeling better. And that's okay. Like, we got to cope with our feelings. We got to do what we got to do with our feelings. I actually did a lot of talking to ChatGPT through this period of my life. I would have long, long conversations with ChatGPT. I would analyze myself. I would analyze the situation. Sometimes I would just talk about the situation over and over and over again with ChatGPT because it wouldn't get tired of it. It would sometimes give me advice that was a little weird, but the advice was way more likely to be good and useful. Like, I really believe I got some useful advice from ChatGPT, especially legal advice, though it would always preface it by saying, "Don't take my advice as legal advice. I'm just giving you stuff." But it was actually very useful. And then it actually helped me to think about things about the situation that I might not have thought about before. And so that was actually very useful. So I talked a lot to ChatGPT throughout the situation. So that was also time I was spending. And that was like self work time, self reflection time. And that was helpful. But now it's time to move on from survival mode into rebuilding mode. And that's kind of like the purpose of this video. So I want to talk through is this rebuilding mode. And I want to give you some basically ideas. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing as I go into rebuilding mode. And I want you to drop a comment. Let me know what you're doing as we move into 2026. Where are you at in your life journey? What kinds of things are you looking at rebuilding? What kinds of things are you working at growing, working on, right? Where are you at in your life reset journey? Are you in the beginning, the middle, toward the end? I would love to know. Let's keep the conversation going. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try really hard to stay disciplined with a journaling habit. And I have a list of categories, life categories of things that I want to make sure to focus on every day. I am a very daily process oriented person. I find that I get the best results from life when I process things every day. So in other words, instead of thinking, well, twice a week I'll work on YouTube videos, like to me, that's a very abstract way to think about things. I much prefer to think about things in a daily fashion. And sometimes I think it's more productive for me to sometimes skip a thing for today. So if it's on my daily list, I'll say, I don't have time for it. What thing am I going to leave out and hit tomorrow instead? Like, that's better than only planning to do a thing twice a week for me. So that's how I'm setting up my routine, right? The way you process things probably is different, or it might be the same, whatever. I kind of think we need to do something that works for us, something that's going to give us the best odds for success. So here are the main categories that I broke it down with. And I actually had ChatGPT help me flesh this out because I basically talked through what I want to focus on for my life. And so my plan is to start a journaling habit, and then to have this list in front of me every day, and then make my to-do list for that day based on kind of how much time I have and what I can get done in each of these goal categories that day. That's my plan. And so number one is my YouTube goals, right? Number two is my health and fitness goals. I want to dial in diet and exercise, right? Number three is money management. I want to be really intentional with my use of money in 2026. I don't want to waste money on frivolous things. I want to be efficient. I want to be intentional. I want to be minimalistic. I want to make sure that every dollar is getting given a good job that's going to add to the life categories that I care about in my life. Then we have family and pets. I want to talk about, like, basically as we go into 2026, like, I have two dogs. In fact, I just adopted my second dog 2 weeks ago. Her name is Phoebe. I have Tank. So I have two dogs, and I want to start working on obedience training with them. And I think if I schedule just even like 15 to 20 minutes a day to work with them, like, that's going to make a big difference over the course of the year. So I want to get intentional about that. I also want to get intentional about family. I want to spend more time with my parents. I want to spend more time with my kids, spend more time with my friends, even, but my very good friends, like the close ones, like not friendships that take away from me or sap my energy, friendships that add to my life, add, energy, add love, add positivity, right? Add encouragement. So that's another area. And then number five is my dating life. I want to be intentional with my dating life moving forward. I want to meet really cool people. I want to meet people who are going to add to my life in good ways. I want to stay away from people who are going to sap my energy. I want to stay away from relationships that require emotional heavy lifting without giving back, right? I have in the past had a bit of a hero complex with people. Like, there's an element of my personality that wants to help people and that wants to feel important. And I've realized that this can lead to me getting into relationships where I give a lot without receiving much in return. I have done this several times in my life. And every time I do it, it causes an energy imbalance, and it takes away from my life instead of adding to my life in a good way. And I have decided I'm done with that. I'm only entertaining dating relationships that are going to add to my life, like truly add, that I can add to them also, have it be a good, positive experience. So that is another thing I'm going to get very intentional about, is basically scheduling time with great people, meeting great people, putting myself in situations where I can meet those great people. So those are like the 5 categories of things I'm really going to focus on in 2026. I believe that these are all things I can hit on every single day. And so that's my plan, is make it a daily plan. I think that it's important not to push yourself to a point where you're going to stress yourself out, right? And it's important to understand that you're going to go at the pace that's right for you. You're going to go at the pace that's comfortable for you. And then you might push on that, like go a little faster, go a little harder as you get the energy to do it. As you feel more momentum, you're going to feel more motivation. But friends, I can't overstate this enough. When you're going through a life reset, sometimes you have to prioritize rest. Sometimes you have to prioritize letting your mind rest and heal. There truly sometimes isn't energy to do big stuff. I'm going to be super, super honest with you. When I was in the middle of my divorce, living with my folks, I had gotten laid off from my job. So I was spending 40 hours a week at a job that paid like literally less than half what I was making before, trying to make ends meet, all this. It was such a dark time in my life. Like, I would literally, sometimes I had no energy. I have never, ever been the kind of person to go days without showering. Never. For most of my life, I've been a shower twice a day kind of person, like legit. I legitimately, I think at one point went 7 to 10 days without showering during that dark period, because it was so hard just to get out of bed. So hard. And you know what I'm talking about, right? So I'm not there anymore. Now I'm waking up early. I have energy. I'm motivated. I can get a lot done every day. But that's not how I felt 4 months ago. 4 months ago, I was struggling to get motivated to even, I would literally get home from work and I would crawl I was sleeping in a cot in my parents' garage next to my dog, because he couldn't be inside because he was big and loud, and he stressed them out and stuff. And it's just such a hard situation, man. Plus, like, that whole 2025 for me was just an absolute train wreck of a year. And a lot of it I set myself up for. I got into a marriage I should not have gotten into. I should have known better. I should not have put myself in a position like that in my life where leaving that marriage was going to plunge me into such hardship for such a short amount of time. I also, on a separate note, I should not have relied on the job situation I was relying on in that time. I knew that there was a possibility it was an unstable job situation, and I did not really take serious efforts to like build a foundation of that up to mitigate that risk. I did. So I'm not trying to blame other people. I made some choices that really set me up for pain in 2025, and boy did it happen. The stuff that could have gone wrong, it went wrong, man. And I paid for those choices. I'm gonna tell you right now, I paid for them with pain and suffering and misery and sadness. But the point I'm trying to make with this is, as we move into 2026, I really want to make sure that you understand that, just because I'm saying, oh, I'm going to lay out these goals and do these things and have these categories, this journaling habit, blah, 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 like that does not in any way equate to, oh, you should also do this and you should make sure that you have enough energy to do it. Because, friends, I'm going to tell you what right now, I know better than most how it can be so hard to find that energy sometimes when you're going through those hard life situations. So I just want to give you some peace about that. I want to let you know that I feel for you, and that if it is understandable if you're not ready yet to attack life like that aggressively. You might be still in a state where you're recovering from being beat up, right? Like that's super understandable. Sometimes we have to go through that and process that. Sometimes we need to heal and rest and have a big rest, like a life rest, a soul rest, before we're ready to get back up and attack life to move forward in a positive way. So just know that I've got empathy for you, and I hope you have empathy for yourself when you are thinking about that. With that being said, here's what I want all of us to do for 2026. I want us to try to make some progress, make forward progress. And I know that that's a hard thing to do sometimes, but small steps can lead up to really good positive outcomes over time. Like I do not have a lot of time, right? I'm trying to do a lot of things. YouTube takes a long time. Work takes a long time. Spending time with the kids, dating, these things all require time. Am I going to be able to fit massive amounts of time every day into it? No. We all have a certain amount of time. I'm going to have to sleep too. I want to be good about my sleep. I want to make sure that I'm getting 8 hours of sleep. So I have a limited amount of time. And sometimes I'm going to have to accept that it's going to be short bursts of activity. So for example, some days I may only have 10 minutes to spend intentionally obedience training my dogs, right? Because I might be spending 20 to 30 minutes just taking care of them, watching them while they exercise. I do have a fenced in backyard now, and I have like a space in my house where they can play and be out of their kennels, and I can let them play by themselves inside the house, but outside I have to be careful. My little girl dog Phoebe, she is an escape artist, and my big dog Tank, he can go right over the fence if he wants because he's so big, and my fence isn't that tall. So I do have to watch them. So that's time too. What I'm thinking is I'm going to use that outdoor time for obedience training, so I can kind of give them the outside time while also doing the obedience training. But you see what I'm saying is that like I'm going to have to accept that I'm not going to just get hours a day to work on this with them if I want to prioritize these other things too. And that's okay, because when I look at that, I don't think, what, just 10 minutes a day? There's not even a point to doing it. That's not true. If I spend 10 minutes a day, every day, consistently, we're looking at over an hour of obedience training per week. We're looking at over 365 hours for the year, right? That's a lot of training. They can make a lot of progress with that training if I spread it out over time, right? So sometimes being intentional with small things, and that's what I want to, encourage you to do. Maybe you need to change your career. Okay. Spend 5 minutes a day working on your resume. You might say to me, Josh, I'm only going to I'll barely be able to write 2 or 3 sentences. Okay, then do that. But that's so much better than nothing, right? So I want to let you know that I have empathy for not having the energy to go hard. But I also want you to know You deserve to get out of the hole. When we're going through a life reset, friends, it's like we face plant in the mud in a horrible situation. How are we going to get out of it? If we just stay down there in that mud and we lay there, we're going to starve down there. We're going to die of dehydration down there. We cannot just live in that mud. We're going to get hypothermia and we're going to die down there. Instead, we have to start climbing out, but it's so hard. Pulling yourself free from the mud is so hard. But once you get free of it, you start to climb the mountain. Okay, this is good, but that mountain's hard to climb. But we have to climb the mountain because what's at the top? Paradise. Paradise. A new beginning, a new chapter for you. Getting free of all this old stuff. That's what lives at the top of that mountain. That's what we can reach, but it's going to be a hard climb. And I feel like I've just gotten free of the mud and I'm starting to climb the mountain. But no matter where you are in your journey, I want to give you some encouragement. Please start the journey today. Please start. It's so worth it. You are worth it. You deserve a second chance. You deserve to not give up right now. You have a whole nother chapter of your life waiting for you at the top of that mountain. What is it going to look like? Nobody knows. But if you've gone through hell, which you probably have, if you're here and the reason you've seen this, the reason you're watching this channel is, you've probably gone through hell and you're probably still trying to escape it. And if you can make it to that new chapter, you have a huge chance to make it better, maybe the best ever, right? The best chapter ever. And I want that for you. And I believe in you. I know I can do it. I believe you can do it too. Let's not give up on ourselves. Let's use this new year as a catalyst to make that happen, okay? So that's what I want for you today. And friends, that's all I have to say about this one. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of the Life Reset Collective. Please go with peace, go with grace. Please give yourself some empathy, give yourself some peace. I want to let you know that you deserve that new chance. Do not give up on yourself, all right? Make sure to hit that subscribe button and the thumbs up button, and I will see you on the next one.